Everyone has so much code. Are you able to get the Modest Mouse audio over? Wait, let me see who's playing. No, that's from the video. But I can't, I wish there was like a simpler way. Like I wish you could just go to like double click on it and then like affect its audio. Control audio via OBS. Let's see. If that works for the browser. Is there one more? Okay, do we have any more streams? Where's yours? Right here? Oh, this is Spencer's. Wow, these look sick. Oh wow! How'd you do this?
I'm just doing a screen recording, and then since I want to do like design before, so I want to do like
Wow.
yeah. Just like real time.
What's Touch Designer?
It's a node-based programming language. It's essentially like a UI built on top of OpenGL and allows you to work with like actually doing like Python and like C++ noise, you can do like anything. Like, essentially, it's really crazy.
It's so beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I really like it. So it's great to watch. So I'll do this.
Is this your audio? No.
That's what me figuring out how the audio website.
This is Spencer's audio? Oh, did you figure it out? How did you do it?
I don't remember. Hold on, let me figure out how to do that.
I'm learning I don't know anything.
Have you been struggling to make your cities look more natural? Do your cities end up looking a little bit more like Manhattan than you'd prefer?
Okay.
Are your cities completely gridlocked even if you followed the rules of roadway
Yeah,
hierarchy?
that's the weird thing.
Well,
is that-
all of these problems can likely be attributed to your land use and/or zoning decisions. And today, I'm going to explain how to make your cities look more natural by using the in-game zoning tools more effectively. I have a few mods enabled to improve the visuals and ease the tutorial along, but none of these mods are essential, and information in this video should be applicable to all versions of the game on all platforms. But before we get into that, I want to explain the difference between land use and zoning. Land use is the generalized planning categories for what sort of development is planned for a given area. General categories can include things such as residential, commercial, office, industrial, institutional, protected green space, or parks, etc. In the example I'm showing, each of the following blocks, though very different, would be considered residential land uses. Zoning, on the other hand, is derived from land use and contains the intensities and specific uses that may or may not be allowed in a given area. In the example I'm showing, each of the zoning categories for this land use category would be defined individually based on the form or intensity desired in the given area. This is important to understand because on a land use map, the intensity of a use is not defined, so heavy industrial uses such as factories might be indistinguishable from cleaner, quieter light industrial uses such as distribution centers. On a zoning map, these two uses would be well defined and easy to differentiate from one another, which is important because the form, size, trip generation, and noxious externalities produced from these uses would be very different. As a demonstration of how different these concepts are, here's the future land use map of Boulder, Colorado. There are 23 districts that define the future land uses for the city. Compare that to the zoning map, which has 38 individual zoning categories, without even diving into any of the overlay districts that can have an impact on the form of the buildings within each of these zoning categories. So at this point you might be thinking, well, City Skylines only has 6 zoning classifications. I'll never be able to create a realistic city. And if you only use the zoning districts without applying policies or specializations, you'd be right. The 6 zoning districts provided, if used alone, are much more akin to land use classifications than zoning districts. However, if you apply specific planning policies and district specializations, the number of zoning districts that you can create is basically endless. So let's talk about residential districts. Obviously, you can easily zone both low and high density zoning districts. In addition, you can create the following zoning districts with a bit of creativity. A mid-rise zoning district by adding the high-rise ban policy to a district, which ostensibly prevents buildings from reaching level 5. Low and high density high-tech housing zoning districts by applying the high-tech housing policy to either a low or high density zoning district. And a mid-rise high-tech housing district by applying both the high-rise ban and the high-tech housing policy to a district. And lastly, a high or a low density self-sufficient housing zoning district by adding the self-sufficient building specialization to a district, which is available if you have the Green Cities DLC. Mixing these policies and district specializations leaves you with 8 possible housing districts of varying intensities. As is evident in this time lapse, the form and size of these buildings is dramatically different. Strategically mixing these districts within your city will leave citizens with a variety of housing options. The same is true of commercial districts as well, with some caveats to be aware of. As with residential districts, you can zone both high and low density commercial districts and create a mid-rise zoning district by applying the high-rise ban to a district. In addition, you can use the leisure and tourism specializations which are available with the After Dark DLC or the organic and local food specializations to further diversify your commercial zones, the latter of which is available with the Green Cities DLC. You may notice that I've checkered in the zoning for both the high density and tourism districts. I've done this to ensure the maximum density in the area, considering a 4x4 square will maximize density. There's no other reason for this besides that. Be aware that the density and intensity of the district specializations is fixed. The leisure district is always a mixture of low and mid-rise buildings, for instance, whereas the tourism district is always a mixture of high, mid, and low-rise buildings, really with the balance going towards high-rise buildings. And the organic and local foods district is always a low-rise district, regardless of the underlying base zoning in any of these districts. This means that there are a total of 6 commercial zoning districts that you could create. Office districts are a bit more limited. Again, there's the base district, which by default is a high-density zoning district. Similar to the residential and commercial districts, a mid-rise district can be created if the ban high-rises policy is applied to a district. With the Green Cities DLC, an IT cluster district specialization can be added to create a district of some of the tallest high-rises available in the vanilla game. Similar to the district specializations in the commercial district, the density is fixed for the IT cluster specialization, so you will not be able to limit the heights of the buildings. This means that there are a total of 3 office districts that you could create.
I just feel like it would be nice.
Last but not least, industrial districts, in addition to the general industry zoning, can have a variety of district specializations, which include forestry, farming, and oil district specializations. Generally, these specializations should only be used if the raw material is available in the area in which you wish to apply this district specialization. You could also freestyle and create a couple of unique districts. Imagine creating a district with the Industry 4.0 policy applied to it, which changes the educational attainment needed to work in the district by reducing the number of workplaces and increasing the educational attainment required to work there. Or creating a clean industries district, so long as you have the Green Cities DLC, by applying the filter industrial waste policy to a district. These would create unique districts and leave you with a total of 7 unique industrial districts. And this is in addition to the factories that are available with the Industries DLC. By creating a variety of unique zoning districts, you can more naturally transition to or creating a clean industries district, so long as you have the such as those that you might find by applying the filter industrial waste policy to
I like that these all kind of look like like pop-ups.
The end result of using a greater
Pop-ups,
districts
yeah.
is the
Like
creation
there's
of
something
cities
a
that are
little
much
bit
more
like
visually interesting to
that.
life, even the base version of the game.
Or like
And as a reminder, even when your uses are highly segregated, make sure that you make key connections between districts using bike and pedestrian connections. This will greatly reduce your traffic volumes on your
there's something, yeah, I love the like
and allow
flutter
people to have another
of
option to
it.
get to where they need to go.
Oh,
I hope that you found this video educational and interesting. If you have, please consider liking
But
the
yeah,
video, subscribe to
no
the
one
channel,
knows what they're
and
gonna do.
notification bell to let you know
No
when I
one's
make
gonna
videos.
do.
Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
It's easy to connect an external
Make your
camera.
cities look more natural. If your cities end up
easy to?
looking
Is it
more
easy
like
to?
Mad Hatter,
Like a
Like, can I like
your cities
connect
could
it to my
look more
iPhone,
reliable
let's say?
even if you followed the rules
Yeah.
of railway hierarchy.
Yeah? Okay.
Well,
I believe
these
so.
problems can likely be attributed
Yeah,
to your land
yeah,
use
because you can
and
definitely
zoning
connect a
decisions.
digital camera, and I have like
Today,
an
I'm
external
going to
webcam that I
explain how to
connect.
make your cities look
Okay.
more
But
natural by
I-
using
How do you
in-game
stream your,
zoning
let's say,
tools.
phone camera capture to
I have a
this?
few
Is
mods
there a
enabled,
way
though,
to do that?
Surely, because if you can do that
Now,
onto
these mods are
your
essential, and information in this video should be applicable to
computer.
all versions of the game. on all
Can you?
platforms.
Yeah, I've done it before.
Before we get into that,
Oh.
I want
But
to
it's
explain
been
the
a
difference
long
between land
time.
use and zoning. Land use is the generalized planning categories for what sort of development is planned for
OBS
an
for
area.
iPhone.
General categories can include things such as residential, commercial, office, industrial, institutional, protected green space, or parks,
Bonus camera,
etc.
here we go.
In the example I'm showing, each of the
But
following
do you
ones,
wanna
though very
do
different, would be considered residential
A
land
screen
uses.
recording on your, you mean you want
Zoning,
to
on
screen
the other
recording
hand, is
from your
derived
phone
from land
onto
use
your,
and contains
onto
Yeah.
the
intensities and specific uses that may or may not be allowed in a given area. In the example I'm showing,
Oh, yeah,
each
there
of the
are
zoning
solutions
There's a
for
way.
this.
land
Yeah,
use
yeah.
category would be defined individually based on the form or intensity.
I feel like there's
desired in
pretty
the
much a
area.
way to do anything that you want to
This
do.
is important to understand because on a land
Yeah.
use map, the intensity of the use is not defined. So heavy industrial uses such as factories might be indistinguishable from cleaner, quieter light industrial uses such as distribution centers. On a zoning map, these two uses will be well defined and easy to differentiate from one another, which is important because the form, size, trip generation, and noxious externalities produced from these uses will be very different. As a demonstration of how different these concepts
Okay,
are,
last call
here's the
for
future land use map of Boulder, Colorado. There are
Anyone else
23
from
districts
there?
that define the future land uses for the city. Compare that to the zoning map, which has 38 individual zoning categories. Without
Is
even
anyone
diving
planning on
into
using
any of the
OBS
overlay
for
districts that
their
could have an
stream?
impact on the
Yeah.
form of the buildings within each of these zoning categories. So at this point, you might be thinking, well, City Skylines only has 6 zoning classifications. I'll never be able to create a realistic city. And if you only use the zoning districts without applying policies or specializations, you'd be right. The 6 zoning districts provided, if you use them,
Maybe I'll
are
add
much more
this
akin
doc
to land use
to,
classifications than zoning districts. However, if you apply specific planning policies and district specializations, the number of zoning districts that you can create is basically endless. So let's talk about residential districts. Obviously, you can easily zone both low and high density zoning districts. In addition, you can create the following zoning districts with a bit of creativity. A mid-rise zoning district by adding the high-rise ban policy to a district, which ostensibly prevents buildings from reaching level 5. Low and high density high-tech housing zoning districts by applying the high-tech housing policy to either a low or high density zoning district. And a mid-rise high-tech housing district by applying both the high-rise ban and the high-tech housing policy.
Does anyone have
to a
any
district.
questions about any of this
And
stuff?
lastly, a high or a low density self-sufficient housing zoning district by adding the self-sufficient building specialization to a district, which is available if you have the Green Cities DLC.
Quiet.
Mixing these policies and district specializations leaves you with 8 possible housing districts of varying intensities. As is evident in this
Everyone
diagram,
like everyone's clear on how to
and
upload
size of these
stuff?
buildings is dramatically
Okay,
different.
great.
Strategically mixing these districts within your city will leave citizens with a variety of housing
I
options.
think next week
The
is
same
that
is
we're
true of
gonna
commercial
do,
districts as well, with some caveats to be
I
aware
feel
of.
like it might be a
As
more
with
like
residential
lecture
districts, you can zone both high and low density commercial districts and create a
we're gonna
mid-rise
do,
zoning district by applying a high-rise
like more
ban to a district.
performance, front
In addition,
facing
you can use the
cam,
leisure
social
tourism
relations,
specializations which are
I think
available
just dig into
after
like
dark
some of
DLC
the
or the organic
things that come up
food
with streaming a
specializations
little bit more.
to further diversify your commercial
than
zone,
maybe
the latter of
what
which
we're
is
thinking about
available
with
in
ambient
Green Cities
streams.
DLC.
I'll show a
You may
little
notice
bit.
that I checkered in the zoning for
Has
both
anyone
the
seen
high
Me Live in
density
Public?
tourist districts. I've done this to ensure the maximum density